Hi, everybody. I just want to welcome all of you to a special edition of Surrey School's Mental Health and Wellness 40. We have obviously some great guests on today, but what we're going to be talking about is the Surrey School District's hosting of the Provincial Respectful Futures Program. And what is that? Have you heard of the Respectful Futures Program before? Do you is this something that you can use in your classroom, or is this something used after school, or is it before school? What is it? What is it meant to do? What is it meant to be? How is it meant to be used in the classrooms? Again, we host this for the entire province. So today we're going to learn all about it. We've been hosting it actually for a few years, but really this is the restart, relaunch with our new website and our new sort of design of how we do things as a district. We want to take this opportunity to reintroduce our Respectful Futures program. And here on video with me are the folks who helped design the whole entire program and our media guy, Jeff Randawa. So I'm just going to ask people to introduce themselves so that people know who they are, and then we can start talking about what the Respectful Futures program is and how teachers, outreach workers, EAs, child youth care workers, and administrators can use this wonderful tool that's been provided to the entire province from again, I'll let you guys introduce yourselves so that people know where it came from. Okay, but let's start with Jeff, our media guy and my fundraiser, and really he does lots of different things for me. Jeff, why don't you introduce yourself first?
Hi, thanks, Daniel, and good to be here. And I'm the community outreach coordinator with Daniel's Education Services School. So like Daniel said, I support him and all our programs with the fundraising and social media work with our school district. And I've been with the Respectful Futures team for the last couple of years and working with their social media department. So
awesome. And Kerry.
Yes, good afternoon. Thanks so much. I'm Kerry Mccully. I'm the Director of Programs and Interventions for BC Corrections. And I've actually been with Corrections for about 23 years, the first 10 years of which I was a probation officer, and took a lot of learning away from that and blended it, carried it forward into the development of this resource and everything that we're doing to get the word out. Great to be here today.
That's amazing. And Larry.
Thanks, Daniel. And hi, everybody out there. My name's Larry Fletcher. I've been a registered psychologist for a little over 40 years. I'm currently directing the provincial program for men on probation for relationship violence. And really glad to be here and thrilled to be part of this resource development and promotion.
All right. And just so the people who typically watch us know that this is a very organic conversation. So, Larry, Kerry, and Jeff, however you want to answer. I know that you might have decided who's answering which questions, but definitely feel free to chime in. I'll definitely also ask if one person's answered, if the other person has anything else to add. All right. So here we go. So Respectful Futures, and it is at, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong, but respectfulfutures.ca. That's the site we have there.
That's correct, yeah.
Lead you to the site, and as well as a Twitter account. But why did the Ministry of Corrections and Stro Health and the Ministry of Education, why did we even want to develop Respectful Futures? What is it all about? What is it, really?
Okay, so I'll take first run at it, and then I'll hand it over to our other team members. So we've been delivering what's called respectful relationships for a number of years to individuals who are coming into our offices, individuals who are actually also in correctional centers as a result of intimate partner violence charges, convictions. Okay. And what we would hear on a fairly regular basis was from these participants, from those who were completing these programs, a desire to have learned all of that good, purposeful, meaningful stuff earlier in life. And so when hearing that, and then, also getting word that there was some money coming through civil forfeiture, through community safety and crime prevention, we started the business of reaching out to other partners. So, Larry, why did we develop Respectful Futures?
Okay.
Well, thanks, Kerry. From my perspective, this was a much needed resource throughout the programs that you just spoke of, and throughout my counseling practice for quite a few years. I've dealt with adults who look back and make retrospective comments like, gee, if only I'd learned some of these things earlier in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And what people understand is that relationships are really important to nourish, to support, to help us grow. And we do much better when we understand what is a healthy relationship, if we have the tools to have a healthy relationship, and if we interact with others in a really respectful way. So after all the years of working with people who were looking back and saying, gee, I wish I learned this earlier, it was really a thrill to be part of developing this. And we looked out there to see what was available for young people, and found that there was a place for us to develop something that was um, very gender neutral, which was age related, which was applicable to young people who are in school, and also maybe those that are in the community who are able to access the materials through a community organization.
You know what's interesting, and maybe I think Kerry must know this, but I don't know if Jeff and Larry knew this. I used to be the principal for the pretrial center in Surrey. And what's interesting is I remember meeting inmates, and I remember when this project just started, I was just leaving that position, and the deputy warden there says, "Hey, we're collecting a bunch of stories from inmates too. What if we ask them these questions?" And and there was a lot of privacy issues and things, and we didn't really publish those because there's inmates' names on them, but to a T, every inmate that wrote, and I think there were about 10 or 12 of them that wrote, and I still have them on a file somewhere. Kerry, I don't know if you know that. I have them from yeah. But and I can't share them because there's names, right? But every single inmate wished they would have learned to not be violent, to not have, to work out some of the anger issues that they've encountered as youth, to work out some of the trauma that they endured as young people. Because they said, if I could talk back, the question was, if I could speak to my 12, 13, 14-year-old self, what would I say? Yeah. To a T, every inmate said, please choose a different path.
And here was an opportunity for us, Daniel, to take a more proactive, preventative approach. And I'll tell you that we would hear similar sentiments expressed by our staff, by our partners who are facilitating these programs, as there is such helpful content in here. And really, this very much a non-judgmental tone that's been, laying over top of all of the content is, here's some really, really useful information. And here's a chance to build health as opposed to, heading in a different direction in terms of your relationship. And at this time more than ever, ideas, strategies on how to be healthy in your relationships is crucial.
Yeah, and I do want to actually ask Jeff, this is not one of the questions, and before I ask the second question of Larry and Kerry, Jeff, you work as an outreach worker. You've worked in safe schools. You've worked in outreach with our poorest and most vulnerable, and you work actually with a lot of our kids right now, and your work is well in this community of kids who could go the wrong path. How important do you think it is that we work with kids on their trauma and on helping work out some of their anger issues and how to work out how to be respectful so they can be productive citizens and adults? Because you work with these kids every single day.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think a lot of the times the students just want someone that can listen to them and just be a positive role model. It sounds very simple, but, a lot of the community partners that I work with have that policy. It's like just be a good person and show the student that, like, there are caring adults out there for you and that they want to work with you. And it's unconditional. They only care about your success. And it's really to see, like Daniel said, I get to see it on the front lines, and it's amazing. And now I've been with the district for 11 years, and I've seen students get jobs here in the district that I worked with like almost 10 years ago. Yeah. And they come back and they tell me it was this program that you started up, that you had, and it changed my life. And I'm sure the good folks at Safe Schools and community schools can say the same thing with many of their students that they worked with. That I see it now. Like when I'm in the district and I go to a school and I see a Safe School liaison, I'm like, wait a minute, didn't I used to like work with you? They're like, hey, yeah, good to see you, right? And that program changed our lives. Or working with that person from Safe Schools really helped us out. And it's really important because a lot of the students, the one thing they often tell us that they have no stability at home and they have no stability in the community. And just to have that one adult that will champion for them is huge, right? That they just know that despite all the challenges that they have that one program, that one adult that actually cares about them and looks forward to them and seeing them, pardon me. And I often go back to when I first started at Focus Track. One of our she's a principal now, Carla Walsh. I always took her role model. I took her as a role model because whenever a student came, it didn't matter if they came 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, 3 months later. It was never, where have you been? It's like, oh my goodness, so good to see you. Yeah. And that's just so amazing for a student. And I remember I told her, I go like, that is just so cool. The kid has gone through all this stuff, but they always know that Focus Track or any of our ESS programs is still going to be a safe place for them to come back, regardless of how long it's been.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Those are amazing stories. And, when we talk about the resource, Larry, Kerry, who is this resource meant for? Like, who can use this resource? I think I mentioned some employee groups earlier, but maybe you can, because you folks were the key in developing that. I came on sort of a bit later than that. So who is this resource meant to be used for or meant for?
What do you think, Larry? Do you want to go first?
Sure. Thanks, Kerry. When we first sat down to develop the materials, we had in mind that they would likely be targeted most appropriately for young people in perhaps 12, 13 years old and up. What we've found since is that people have wanted to use the materials with younger students, younger people in the community, and use them either in a group setting as they were designed or individually where they seem to be pretty helpful as well. And sometimes that's the opportunity you have. So we began to look at making sure that each of the modules kind of built on the next one so that it could be interpreted in an age-specific way if people wanted to use it with younger people or with older.
Okay. Kerry, anything to add?
Well, and it's available to any teacher across the province. As mentioned, it's a provincial resource. We're also trying to find ways to spread the word across some of these community organizations that are working with young people at risk. As Larry mentioned, the resources, the content, like there's 6 modules in all, and it is very, very easy to make adaptations ever so slightly with some of the concepts that are presented, but very, very straightforward stuff. And it's an awesome, awesome way to connect, to show caring, and to offer tools. And that's what we all, are searching for, when whatever age we might be, is those types of really healthy strategies.
Yeah, and what was fascinating, sorry, Daniel, but
no, I'm not going to say anything. You go ahead.
What was fascinating to me was while we were busy piloting the materials in Chetwynd and Delta and Surrey school districts, we had a request from someone who was doing outreach work in Kenya, Africa.
Wow. And
asked if she could use the materials. And in fact, she did use the materials. That's awesome. And when she advertised the program available, the resources, what she ended up with was about, I think, 15 different women, late teens to early 20s, most of whom came with a small baby in their arms.
Wow.
And somehow, I've seen the photographs and I've seen their faces, and it was just such a wonderful experience. And here in another continent, in another culture, they really appreciated the kind of basic concepts that were put out about what relationships are and how we build healthy ones. So
that's awesome. I think maybe possibly through the magic of editing, at the end of this video, we could do I'll do a short tour of the site. I was going to do it during, but then Google needs me to shut this down and I would lose all the recording. So I don't want to do that. So again, those of you who are watching, please know that at the end of this short video session, we will have a short tour of the website as well, so people can see it and see what the buttons you can click and all those things. And this is amazing. You've already sort of spoken, Larry, on the third question about who has used these resources. But you folks been tracking. Jeff's been sending us Google data regularly. Who's been using the site? Who's been using the resources? And what has been some of the feedback that we've gotten? Actually, I'll start with Jeff. If you've seen some of it, you've seen some.
Yeah, again, like I get to see the numbers on the computer screen, and I also get to go out and talk to the teachers, and the feedback has been really good. And what I actually appreciate the most is when principals and teachers tell us, like, look, we love it, but there's some things that we need to work on, or can we try this? And the feedback I give them is like, look, this is your resource. You know the population of the students that you're working with, and you, along with our collaboration, can present this however you like. All that matters is that the way you present it is reaching the students. And it's really nice to be a part of a collaborative group like that. Like, it's not like, and we've seen it where it's like, this is the rules, this is how you got to present. The kids won't never understand that. They like it when it's someone that they already know and that they have a connection with them, and they're just developing like a really good positive relationship through the resources that they have. So I've had a lot of principals tell me that they're like, you know what, sometimes we'll just like kind of do a couple of tweaks. Is that okay? I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I go, as long as the students are getting the benefit, that's all that matters to us.
Yeah. Kerry, Larry, anything else to add?
There's been a few different conferences, a few different groups that Larry and I presented to over the years. I think about the BC Child and Youth Workers. Most recently had a chance to present to them virtually, and did hear back from one of them out of Nelson, BC, about the very positive reception to the resources. Wanted a few more ideas, offered that. I've also heard from a similar role out on the island. So it is certainly making its way out across, and positive. Yeah, it's just what we're hearing from people is really, really good stuff.
Okay, awesome. Larry, any other feedback? You talked about Kenya. Any others?
Yeah, I think just to add, during the pilots in Chetwynd, they chose to space the modules out a little bit further apart than say, over a week or 2 weeks or something. And what they found during that time was that some of the, I think it was grade 11s and 12s, Terry, I can't recall, but the students that were involved in participating with the resource were creating posters, we're creating signs, we're putting them out in the hallways, and other students were asking, and the conversations were building. And what they reported was an observable change in the culture in the school, and this transmission of, well, what are you talking about? I plus you plus we, what is this thing? And that's in the materials, and it's a really wonderful concept. It's actually us, not we. But
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. And when we first started, I think some teachers, the first question is your fourth question is, how do we introduce this? How do we even put this out there to the kids, right? And it's not just meant for at-risk youth; it's meant for all youth. Yep. I think there's always a mistake that we need to teach at-risk and vulnerable youth how to be respectful, how to not be angry, how to not be violent, and all those things. But we forget that people don't get into a life of crime or violence if they're only trauma kids. Like, there's all sorts of kids need to learn this respectful way. We look at the news and you see the swarmings that are happening, just organically happening in malls and in school playgrounds and things, and people being violent with each other. And I always say to my wife, my kids were there filming but not calling 911. Man, I'd be the first one to take my kid to the police station. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like we don't. I think just kids overall need the lesson. Yeah. And so, how do you suggest teachers bring it up? Like, where would you bring it up if you were teaching in the classroom or talking to people about it?
Well, and just to speak to that other end of the continuum as well, I think there's a lot of young people who are feeling quite isolated at this point in time as well. Yeah. And again, there's some great ideas, good sound concepts on there on how to reach out and establish, some of those more appropriate relationships, not online, but in person. That as well, I think, is a key critical piece to it. I think other ideas is, certainly experimenting with the delivery of some of those modules. I think also looking to see whether or not you've got a few of those students who are particularly interested in showing some leadership, could do some co-leading as well.
Yeah.
Grab a few of those concepts themselves and start to wrap it around a bit of some of the other things that are happening in the school. This idea of giving the concepts more life, animation, whether that is posters, whether that is, I know in some schools you've got the capability to run some short videos in different parts of the building. It would be great to take some of these images and put them up on screen and just use any sort of opportunity to reinforce. I think that's really, really, really important. But take your time. There is 6 modules. It doesn't have to be completed in 6 days. It could be 6 months. We've also introduced a mindfulness handbook. So there's a few different ideas there on, even just how to start the conversation off. Let's, try out this exercise. It gives us, some ideas on how to slow down some of our thinking and make space for some reflection. So, that's what we often do with the start of any of our programs that we run with clients, and then sharing with them some of the content. There is, ideas within the resources themselves on various questions you can put forward, activities as well. I love charades.
Yeah.
And I think that is, something that is definitely digestible no matter what age.
Yeah.
Lots of good stuff.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Larry, anything else to add?
Yeah, I think that what Kerry has just outlined is a big part, and it includes just this change, as we saw in Chetwynd, quite surprisingly and pleasantly, was the culture begins to change and people are able to talk more amongst themselves. And I think what happens, with all the things going on in the world in the last few years that have just been very stressful, for groups of young people to come together to learn the kinds of tools, to pick up the tools, to learn the skills, to gain the insights, to learn this language that we've put into the modules, and then lean on each other while they go out and share that with other people. There's a real comfort level so that some of the kids are not as lost. And while this is not an anti-bullying program, this is not a program to fix any of those things, the tools and the awareness absolutely will help young people become more comfortable and more confident in dealing with others. And our whole purpose from the beginning was not to have just romantic relationships or boy-girl relationships. We were really clear. We're talking about human relationships between young people and adults, between young people in the community, with the police, with all of those relationships.
Awesome. Yeah, and as a teacher, I mean, you can use this. I could have used it if I was teaching in PE. I could have used it in teaching history. I could have used it in teaching English. I could have used it if I taught math, because talking about, even the life skills of math and how, you can, if you're using math in XYZ job, how do you treat people in those jobs? Those, you can always talk relationally in any subject matter, not just the humanities. And Jeff, as a former outreach worker, and you still do a lot of outreach now, even though their job title is different. I mean, you can use this in the work that you do, just relating to kids, can't you?
Oh yeah, for sure. But like I said, when you talk about the approach of this program, sometimes with the students I work with, because they're struggling so much, you can't just sit down and talk about it. You just have to use the resources, review the resources, and then just kind of bring it up when a chance arises, right? When the kids talk about something, then you're like, okay, I got this. Just like having a toolbox, right?
Yeah.
When you need that certain tool, then you just take it out and, okay, now we need to talk to the kids about this. So that's the way I look at it. And it's been great experience for me on both sides of the coin, where I get to work on the social media side of this and also get to implement some of these tools as well. It's been great working with Kerry and Larry and yourself and the entire team. Like, I'm fairly new. I came in during COVID, and I just feel respected, no pun intended. But
Yeah.
I just really believed in the program when I first met Larry, yourself, and Kerry, that it's like, this is something really good and I want to be a part of it. And you lead by example, and that's what these fine folks are definitely doing.
Awesome. Well, go ahead,
Daniel.
Go ahead. This is the way
just going to jump on,
like CNN.
Jump on something that Jeff said here, that you just twigged for me memories. I was a scout leader, cub leader in Victoria for about 14 years. And those teachable moments you referred to, those opportunists, when preparation meets opportunity is success, I read somewhere. But that's exactly what it is. You find those moments and suddenly you realize you have 20 young people sitting around a campfire who want to know about something very relevant to what we're talking about here. And I, looking back now, I sure wish I'd had some of the materials from Respectful Futures to hand out to them.
Well, and I was just about to say that, we, as the 25-30 minutes goes by really quickly. We were worried about not having enough to say, and we're already hitting 27 minutes. And just so people are watching know, at about the 30-minute mark, we will have a short tour of the website, just so if you watch part of this, you're like, I just want to tour the website, you can go to the 30-minute mark and see that. But final words, right? What's next? On the district side, we will be supporting this provincial initiative until at least I retire and well beyond. We're hosting it on the district site. So when you go to respectfulfutures.ca, you'll end up on a Surrey district webpage, but with some of the Surrey colors, but also the Respectful Future symbol and all the materials that come with. We will always be updating. It is an organic thing. But what's next? Kerry, Larry, what's next for Respectful Futures?
We'll continue to get the word out there, Daniel. We'll continue to answer any queries from teachers. I do hear from time to time, from parents, how do I talk to my school district about this? How do I encourage, the inclusion of this? I'll continue to offer ideas. I continue to collaborate with yourselves around the table here. There is a feedback feature as well on the website itself. So that comes our way whenever anybody fills that out for us. So I'll continue to respond to those, definitely. There's videos that we've identified that align nicely with some of the messaging in some of the modules. So there will be those times where, maybe there's another possible video clip that, again, has that very proactive, pro-social, relational, functional element vibe to it. We'll bring those forward. So it's just a matter of keeping this going. We've got our Respectful Futures Guide team, all of us here. We are just super excited about continuing getting the word out.
Awesome. Larry?
Yeah, echoing part of what Kerry just said, I think anyone that uses the materials, and they're available for free for anyone to use, please give us feedback, and also consider doing a testimonial, doing a bit of a summary we can use to share with others about your experience with it, and also to invite us out to share information with you. If there's anyone out there in a I was going to say institution, in a community agency, in a school setting, private school, public school, whatever. We're more than glad to come and answer questions and to clarify aspects of the material. And as I started out saying, I'm just thrilled to be part of this. So.
Well, and the contact information will be at the sort of in the description of this YouTube video. But Jeff, there's also ways to reach out on social media. Yeah, we want to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we have a Twitter handle, we have Facebook, we have Instagram, right? So there's definitely a lot of different ways to kind of reach out to us. Now that the website's been revamped, definitely that will be my next step, is to take the lead from Larry and Kerry and yourself, and just get all the resources out there for the fine folks out there that need them. Yeah. I'm looking forward to it. It's exciting times.
Well, perfect. Well, thank you, Larry, Kerry, Jeff, for joining us on this video. And again, for those of you watching at the 30-minute mark, which is 30 seconds from now, we will also have a tour of the website so that you can check it out and see for yourself what it is. Some of the contact information and Twitter handles and Instagram and all those things will be available in the description. But thank you so much for watching this special edition of Surrey Mental Health and Wellness. And I really appreciate it. It's not Mental Health and Wellness 40 because it's only a 30-minute plus tour video. But again, really appreciate Ministry of Corrections, Joe Health, the two of you, for being partners with us in this work. You guys, thank you all for watching. Everyone, have a great day. See you later.
Thank you.
All right, so to go to the Respectful Futures site, you go to respectfulfutures.ca, and you'll see that there. And it'll take you to our Respectful Futures site, which is hosted by the Surrey School District. There's teaching materials, facilitation guide, there's testimonials that you can see of different people who've used the product and used the resources. And you can take a look at it. It takes a while to load sometimes, but you see me there and talk about how we've used it in our programs. But you see also people from Delta and also a cognitive behavioral therapist that's used this program. And you can also see that we have like different ways to show you how to teach the material. There's a facilitation guide there that can show you how to use the different modules. And there are 6 modules in total, and all the different modules have different elements of how to build a relationship, how to have a respectful future, which is the whole title of it. And you look at the different modules, it talks about managing anger and healthy relationships and how to sustain healthy relationships. And an example would be in module one, the characteristics of a healthy relationship, right? And the teaching materials, you click on that and the PDF pulls up automatically. And you notice that the PDF and the teaching materials do follow the ministry method of how to build curriculum, which is a big idea, and the learning outcomes and the different resources and notes for facilitators. How can you facilitate this? And it's not necessarily just teachers, but outreach workers, child youth care workers, even EAs, all of you who work with kids, administrators can use these modules to work with kids. And Jeff in the video talked about using it as a toolbox. So reading through all this and looking at it, you can use it anytime you interact with kids. There's also the feedback information that I just scrolled down to earlier of how you can provide feedback, because we do update our information regularly. Here's the story of how this came to be, but it is important for us that it's an organic resource, that if you do have feedback or something you think we can add, or videos that you can add, or even teaching materials, like you go back to these teaching materials which sort of describes all the different modules that are out there. If you think there's something else that we can add to this that will enhance the material, please go to our feedback or reach out to our Twitter or our Instagram or our Facebook page and really tell us how we can continue to further enhance this resource, and so that the rest of the province and anybody else in the world, really, Larry talked about people using it in Kenya, how this resource can be used to benefit staff, families, and students. Hi everybody, thank you for watching this video. I do want to take this opportunity to thank Stroh Health and the Ministry of Corrections for partnering with our school district in providing this provincial resource. It's such a great resource meant to help students, families, and staff that we really wanted to make sure that it was out there for everyone to use. If you want to know more information or want to interact with us, feel free to go to the website and give information or feedback in the feedback box, or interact with us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Feel free to ask any questions or give any suggestions on any of those platforms. We appreciate you watching, and thank you for using Respectful Futures.